There is a simple statement that has shaken the very foundations of time and space. It was not a long sermon, nor a complex philosophy, but just 3 words. I am that I am. This is not merely a sacred name, but the creative code you already carry within yourself. This journey does not teach you how to become someone else, but leads you back to your original state, where you no longer need to search for the light, because you are that light. Each part of this series is a fragment of a mirror reflecting the pure essence of your being, reminding you that you have never left your wholeness. I am the source of creation. Before there was form, language, or belief, there was only one thing that existed: pure awareness. No color, no limits, no name. And from that invisible stillness, a first wave rose, not through a voice, but through presence, not through thought, but through affirmation. That first utterance was not a definition, but a declaration. I am. 2 short words that opened the entire universe. No explanation, no proof was needed, only presence. I am is the primal current of all life, the breeze that moves across the ocean before a single wave appears. In every sacred tradition, people have sought the origin of creation. Some call it God, others call it the source, the universe, the supreme being, but all those words are outward descriptions. From within, there is only one statement, resonating like an ancient sound every soul has heard before. I am not someone, not something, simply being. Moses was not given a name. He was given a proclamation. When he asked God, the answer came, I am that I am. Not a title, but an essence. The life that knows it is alive. The light that knows it is shining. The intelligence that recognizes itself. That answer did not merely describe God, it revealed the entire mechanism of the universe. Everything you experience extends from those 2 words. When you say, I am tired, I am strong, I am not enough, I am free, you are not merely describing a feeling, you are establishing a reality. Every I am is a seed, planted in the soil of consciousness, watered by emotion, and grown into a tangible experience. No seed is neutral. All of them shape. Each sentence is a brushstroke on the canvas of your life, not because it is true, but because you have signed your name to it, not because the universe sees it that way, but because you have chosen to see it that way, not because you must become it, but because you have affirmed it before life has even responded. And life does only one thing: reflect. The problem is that most people live unaware of their I am. They use it unconsciously. I am always failing. I am slow. I am not good enough. I am too late. And they do not realize that each time they speak this, they are affirming to their mind, their selves, their energy, and the universe. This is what I choose to be, whether in jest, in passing, or in a moment of weakness. Nothing in the universe knows whether you are joking or serious. It only records that you have spoken, and I am is a command, a program code, a vibrational signal. From here, a simple principle emerges. You do not wait to become, you declare to begin. You do not wait for someone to validate your worth. You affirm it, and then the world follows. You do not need to hope for love. You say, I am love, and the space around you begins to adjust. You do not need to prove abundance. You say, I am abundance, and everything else rearranges. Those who wait for life to change before daring to say, I am differently, will remain in the same circle. For they take reality as the cause and see themselves as the effect. But the truly awakened do the opposite. They know that I am is the cause, and everything else is the chain reaction. When you say I am, you are drawing shapes upon the water, and the water will follow the vibration of your consciousness. This is not illusion. This is the structure of creation. Your nervous system, your emotions, your environment, all are responding to what you affirm you are. Not what you wish for, but what you say. Not what you think you deserve, but what you choose to be. The difference seems small, but it is the entire pivot point. For I want is lack. I am is presence. I want is pleading. I am is authority. I want is waiting. I am is commanding. And you were not born to wait. You were born to remember that you can begin at any moment. No reason required. No evidence needed. No approval sought. Because you have always been, the seed has always been there. You only need to affirm it. From now on, whenever you are about to say, I am, pause for a second. Remember, you are signing a declaration. Choose to sign the future you want to live, not the past you wish to escape. For in the language of the soul, there is no time, only affirmation. And what you affirm today will become the reality of tomorrow. Use those two words with precision, gentleness, and reverence, not because you are trying to become something, but because you are removing everything you are not and returning to your first nature, sacred, simple, and radiant. I am the source of creation, and you are the one speaking it. I am that I am, the sacred name, and the blueprint of the universe. Have you ever wondered, if God had a name, what would it be? Not a name carved on stone tablets, not a title passed down through human tradition, but a name so sacred it needs no pronunciation, only recognition. A name that does not speak about him, but is him, not a description of his being, but the being itself. Moses asked this question, standing before the fire that did not consume, when his mind could not comprehend, but his soul knew it was face to face with the source of all sources. Moses asked, what shall I tell the people who has sent me? The answer was not a personal name, not a claim to power, not a position of status. It was an affirmation, a complete statement, both a code and an invitation. I am that I am. No more, no less, no explanation needed. An infinite stream of light contained within 6 words. Yet those 6 words are a doorway leading back to the place your soul has always belonged. Have you ever paused in the midst of life's pace and asked yourself, who am I? Not in terms of your name, your occupation, or your role in society, but deeper than that, to the place beyond language, beyond memory, where you touch a presence that needs no proof. When you ask that question, you are retracing the steps of Moses, and the answer given to him is the same answer given to you. I am that I am. This is not a declaration belonging only to a supreme being. It is a law, an invisible yet absolute principle. Everything you become in this world is a reflection from within. You are what you affirm. No sooner, not later. The statement, I am that I am, is the clearest expression of the law of creation. It is not merely the name of God. It is the blueprint of all reality. You say, I am, and the universe replies that you are. You affirm a vibration, and the physical world rearranges to mirror it. You say, I am light, and light begins to find you in the smallest details of life. You say, I am hopeless, and the mirror of your life grows dim, not because the light has vanished, but because you have changed the lens. Every time you say, I am, you are rewriting the code of your own being, not mechanical code, but spiritual code. And you are the programmer. No one else can declare, I am on your behalf. No one else can set the limits after those two words unless you allow it. So pause for a moment and let me ask you this. Today, what I am have you spoken to yourself? What have you declared yourself to be consciously or unconsciously? Are you repeating old I ams, outdated and worn, once true but no longer needed? Or are you speaking a new I am, a version of yourself your heart has always known to be real? The answer need not be spoken. It only needs to be felt. For the moment you hear these words, something within you begins to awaken, not from me, but from the sacred echo inside you. Perhaps you have read the phrase, I am that I am, many times in books, but today you are hearing it from a deeper place, a place where the mind no longer interferes and the soul begins to remember. Feel those 6 words again, as if they were the first heartbeat of the universe. I am that I am. Simple, yet eternal, not a prayer, but an awakening. Not so. You might be given something, but so you might remember you have never lacked anything. In it there is no ambition, no fear, only clarity. A clarity like the sunrise that needs no artist to paint it. A clarity like the undeniable fact that you are here, now not by accident, not late, not incomplete. The truth is you have never left the source. You have simply forgotten that you carry its code in every breath, every step, every glance. And now you are beginning to remember. I am is not merely speech, it is formative energy. And I am that I am is the union of subject and object, of what you declare and what you become. No more distance, no more separation. Only one life, affirming itself through you. I know that if you are still here, your soul is listening not just with your ears, but with an inner openness. And I thank you for that presence, because it is you, through this awakened listening, who allows that truth to live again, not just on the page, but in each moment of reality. From now on, let every time you say I am be a sacred remembrance. It need not be grand or dramatic, only clear. I am that I am. And that alone is enough to begin the universe anew. I am as a vibrational command. I am is not merely a phrase. It is an invisible command, issued from the center of consciousness, passing through the shell of matter and touching the deepest layer of formative vibration. Each time you say, I am, you are sending out a frequency, and the universe, like a living mirror, does not respond to opinions, does not respond to reasons, it responds to frequency. It does not distinguish right from wrong, positive from negative. It performs only one function, rearranging the elements within the field of existence to match what you have just affirmed. I am is the primary command, and everything that follows is the code you are running. When you say, I am strong, a neural map is activated, cells begin to respond, emotions shift, awareness gathers, and life shifts into a new trajectory. When you say, I am inadequate, the body complies, energy nods in agreement, and life begins to contract to fit that declaration. This is not philosophy or artificial positivity, it is the precise mechanism linking language, consciousness, and matter. The issue does not lie in the emotion you feel, it lies in what you choose to attach to that emotion. You can be sad, disappointed, doubtful, but if in that moment you remember that you are the life observing the emotion rather than the identity tied to it, you will not be pulled under. You can whisper, I am experiencing fatigue, but I am not the fatigue. I am observing fear, but I am not the fear. The dividing line between awakening and unconsciousness is the difference in how you use I am. The unconscious person attaches identity to every fluctuation, The awakened person keeps I am as an unmoving center, letting everything come and go around it. Because if you are not careful, I am becomes a double-edged sword. Once spoken, it is no longer just a thought. It becomes an instruction to the entire operating system. The subconscious does not understand sarcasm. It does not know you are joking. It records every I am as an official declaration. Like a machine operating by code, it begins restructuring beliefs, emotions, and even biology to synchronize with what you have said. This is why unconsciousness is not something distant. It is simply the repeated use of an I am that no longer serves you, only because you are used to it. Every time you say, I am a failure, I am lonely, I am a victim of circumstance, you are pressing the button to recreate the old reality. And then you wonder why nothing changes. But change does not begin with action. It begins with identity, with how you define yourself in silence. Actions can change temporary outcomes, but only identity can change the foundation. And identity begins with what you say after I am. A person who changes behavior without changing I am will always find themselves back where they started, because at the deepest level, the inner operating system is still running an old command. I am as a seed. You can water it endlessly, fertilize it abundantly. But if the seed is one of limitation, all your effort will only produce greater limitation. Therefore, your first priority is not to do more, but to release the I ams that were once true but are no longer needed. Some identities were attached to you when you were very young. Someone called you slow, incapable, selfish, and you believed it. You attached it after I am. You signed a contract without reading it. But today, you can cancel that contract. No anger needed, no resentment. Simply rewrite it. A new line, a new I am. For the beauty of creation is that it does not need the past to begin. It only needs a new command in the present. And when you speak I am differently, the universe does not ask why you have changed your mind. It simply does one thing. Reflect what you have just declared. I am is the simplest miracle, yet the most powerful. It requires no ritual, no condition, only awareness of what you are affirming. From that moment, you are no longer a victim of circumstance. You become the architect of vibration, not through brute strength, but through clarity in your words, not through effort, but through presence, not through intellect, but through depth. This is the point where I am ceases to be a term and becomes the current of light guiding your life. And when you live from that place, you no longer need to convince anyone. You simply walk, for everything will automatically arrange itself to match what you have become. Identity is destiny. Identity is not the result. It is the cause. Everything you are experiencing today begins with an invisible affirmation in your mind about who you believe yourself to be. What you think about yourself, what you silently repeat, what you whisper in your thoughts, even if no one hears it, is the blueprint upon which your entire life operates. You do not act and then form an identity. You act according to the identity you have already affirmed. Behavior is the tip of the iceberg. Identity is the hidden mass that steers everything. When you say, I am shy, I am unlucky, I am not good enough, every action you take will quietly seek to reinforce that declaration. Every choice, every reaction, every decision repeats itself as a way to protect what you believe to be true about yourself. Identity is a lens. You do not see things as they are. You see them through the filter of who you believe you are. In the same circumstance, a person with the identity of a victim will see injustice, while a person with the identity of a creator will see an opportunity to learn. The world has not changed. The observer has and the observer is the identity you are living as if it is you. Identity is not fixed, but once repeated enough, it becomes the default, like a song played over and over in the subconscious until you no longer realize it was a choice. You think it is your personality, but in truth, it is a habit of self-definition, a pattern shaped by the words of others, by past experiences, by wounds yet to be healed. And so you label yourself, I am an introvert, I am unpredictable, I am incapable of loving. But identity is not absolute truth. It is a repeated choice, and you can choose again. There is a simple law few notice. You will never act consistently beyond the identity you believe is yours. If you think you are weak, you will turn away from great challenges. If you believe you are undeserving, you will withdraw from opportunities for love. If you believe you are an outsider, you will leave the room before anyone has a chance to reject you. Not because reality forces it, but because you are living according to the map of the identity you have allowed to exist. The remarkable thing is that identity can change, not when you have proof, but when you begin to affirm something new, like the man who used to say, I am a procrastinator. He did not procrastinate merely out of habit, but because he believed it was who he was. Then one day, he tried a new declaration. I am someone who finishes what I start. At first, it felt strange, untrue, but he kept going, repeating it, writing it down, living as if it were true. Soon, his behavior began to shift. He woke up earlier, completed more tasks, felt lighter, not because he tried harder, but because he changed the axis of control. Or the woman who once told herself she was not creative, but when she began journaling, allowing herself to experiment and repeating a new affirmation, I'm learning to express myself, something extraordinary happened. She wrote with greater depth. Her journal became poetry. Their poetry became a book. No one handed her a new identity. She created it herself through a new awareness of who she was. And the world simply mirrored it. When you choose a new I am, life must reposition itself to match. Changing identity is changing the route. It is not about trying to overcome yourself, but about releasing the outdated selves you once believed were real. This awareness does not require performance, it requires honesty. Who are you living as? Who is acting through you each day? Is it a self labeled by the past, or a creative being you are stepping into? Identity is destiny because it writes every script. It determines how you love, how you earn, how you see yourself in the mirror, how you walk into the world. And if you want your destiny to change, you do not need to chase luck. You simply need to rewrite the way you name yourself, not once for effect, but every day as a reaffirmation of the truth your soul has always known. I am living with purpose. I am love in expression. I am abundance in form. And little by little, you will see the world does not respond to what you want. It responds to what you have chosen to be. Then, identity ceases to be a chain. It becomes the foundation for a life rebuilt from within, in silence, in steadiness, in freedom. The self-affirming loop and the unconscious limitation. No loop operates more powerfully than the unconscious cycle born from the words you silently repeat to yourself. What you declare about yourself, even in thought, does not vanish, it accumulates, it weaves itself into a chain. Gradually, it forms a hidden structure within your awareness, functioning like an underground program. And you do not live by choice, you live by programming. You say, I am always unlucky. I never get it right. I am someone who gives up easily. Those words become definitions, and those definitions become a way of life. Once you believe that is who you are, every action will revolve around that belief to reinforce it. You choose relationships only to find yourself abandoned, as if to confirm that you are unlovable. You pass on opportunities because deep down you still believe you are unlucky. Not because it is true, but because you have lived so long with a command that you no longer recognize as a command. Each time you say, I am in a negative way, you are not just expressing a temporary feeling, you are signing the same contract with your old identity. And the subconscious, like a loyal servant, does not interpret intention. It only records and obeys. You tell it, I am a failure, and it immediately steers you toward decisions that will validate that statement. You say, I am unworthy, and it will overlook every signal of love to find evidence proving you right. You think you are describing reality, but you are creating it. Because I am is not a report, it is a design. Every statement you repeat, no matter how small, is a seed planted in the soil of consciousness. And if you repeat it long enough, the soil will accept it. The seed will sprout. Thought becomes emotion. Emotion becomes behavior. Behavior produces results. And those results circle back to reinforce the original belief. The loop completes. This is why someone can remain poor despite great effort. Why another remains lonely despite longing for connection. Why someone self-sabotages despite having opportunities to grow. It is not due to a lack of luck, it is because the identity loop running beneath has not changed. Every negative I am is a link in a repeating feedback chain, and if you do not recognize it, you will unknowingly live inside a reality built from expired affirmations. The mind cannot end the loop by itself. It stops only when awareness enters. When you begin to observe instead of react, when you hear yourself speaking and ask, do I truly want this to be true of me? That moment is the only opening to shift the old pattern. From there, you no longer repeat unconsciously, you begin to choose consciously. Instead of saying, I always fail, you can pause and say, I'm learning to overcome challenges. Instead of saying, I am not good enough, you say, I am growing and expanding my abilities. This is not lying, it is shifting frequency, not pretending, but reclaiming the right to rewrite yourself. And from there, you step out of the old loop, not through force, but through awareness, the simple awareness powerful enough to break every chain. I am not my past. I am the one who chooses again, and I will choose again in every word, every thought, every action until a new loop begins. A loop that builds instead of destroys. A loop that opens instead of repeats. If you still feel stuck in an old pattern, you know this. It does not mean you cannot change. It only means it is time to change the words you repeat. I am is not the echo of memory. I am is the opening statement for the future. And that future begins the moment you stop signing your name to limits that no longer reflect your true self. You were not born to live as a version borrowed from the past. You were born to rewrite yourself in absolute freedom. And that freedom begins in the simplest place, what you tell yourself each day. You do not need to know everything. You only need to know that you have the power to choose a new command. I am is the first language of the soul, and you are the only one with the authority to speak it in the meaning you choose. Examples of transformation through the language of identity. Nothing truly changes in life if identity remains unmoved. Behavior may shift for a moment. Results may improve temporarily. But if at the core you continue repeating the same old affirmations about who you are, reality will eventually return to its starting point. A man had carried an unspoken belief through his entire youth. I am a procrastinator. He did not learn this from a book, but from experience, from the times he left things unfinished, from the disappointed looks, from the repeated criticism of childhood, And so he no longer acted for the sake of his goals. He acted to confirm the identity he had been given. Every time he failed to start, every time he quit halfway, he did not feel wrong, he felt right. Because deep in his subconscious, it matched the I am he had accepted. But one day, he paused, not because someone changed him, but because he began to ask a different question. What would happen if I no longer called myself that? For the first time, he wrote a new sentence. I am someone who finishes what I start. At first, it felt distant, even untrue, but he did not argue with it. He repeated it. He looked into the mirror and spoke it. He wrote it in his journal. He saved it in his phone. And then the small actions began to shift, not from effort, but because the foundation of identity had moved. One day, he completed a project. 1 week, he rose early 3 times. 1 month, he noticed he no longer procrastinated like before. No one announced he had changed life, simply reflected it. This is the power of the voice within. Not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to. A woman had long lived with the belief, I am not creative. She did not dislike creativity. She simply believed it was not for her. As a child, and she had never been praised for imagination. She always thought creativity belonged to people more gifted than herself. But when she began journaling each morning, something shifted. No one told her the writing was good, but she felt lighter when she wrote. One day, she stopped mid-sentence and asked herself, what if I allowed myself to be creative? Even just a little? She began to change her language. I am learning to express myself. I am opening the door to creativity. I am giving myself permission to experiment, not instantly, but over time. Her writing began to come alive. She did not write to become someone else. She wrote to return to herself. And one day, reading back through her pages, she realized she had been creative all along. She did not need recognition. She did not need to be published. Creativity had been present in every honest word she wrote. Identity does not need to be loud, it only needs to be lived. A young man carried a stubborn belief that he was invisible. In his group of friends, in his classes, even in his family, he felt unseen. Instead of resisting it, he agreed with it. He shrank. He spoke less, smiled along with the crowd. Inside, he whispered, I am not worth noticing. But in one moment, after a lesson on presence, he changed the whisper. He began telling himself, I am valuable. I am worth listening to. I do not need to speak loudly to be seen. I only need to be fully present. He did not turn into someone who constantly sought the spotlight, but in conversations, he began speaking with quiet confidence. In his eyes, there was no longer a search for approval, but a calm clarity. Others began to notice, not because he tried to attract them, but because the energy he radiated had shifted. A woman had always felt lost in love. She would say, I always choose the wrong person. I always get abandoned. I do not know how to love the right way. And somehow, every relationship ended the same. But when she began to change that familiar script, not with urgency, but with a small faith that she could be different, she said, I am learning to love in a healthy way. I am attracting meaningful connections. I am worthy of true love. Nothing changed overnight, but she no longer chased after anyone. She no longer tried to hold on to fragments. And one day, she met someone who required no proof from her because she was no longer living in the need for validation. She lived from a new identity, one rewritten with awareness. These examples are not myths. They are living proof of a simple principle. Change the way you name yourself, and life will have to adjust. Reality is not written by hope, but by declaration. And no declaration is more powerful than I am. When you choose a new I am, you are not denying the past. You are writing a new beginning. It does not need to be logical. It does not need to have enough proof. It only requires the quiet courage to say, today I will call myself by an identity larger than my old limits. Not because I am perfect, but because I am ready to stop repeating what is no longer necessary. And that is the first step, not a step upward, but a step inward. The power of voice within, not just the voice you hear, but the space you return to, the place where identity is rewritten not by force, but by homecoming, where you stop being what others once called you and begin being what you choose to become. If you want to change your life, change the way you are. Everyone wants to change their life: more money, better health, deeper relationships, more meaningful work. But most people start in the wrong place. They try to change their behavior, build new habits, set goals, make plans, discipline themselves, and then they feel frustrated when everything snaps back to where it began, because they have not changed the person they are living as. Life does not move according to the vertical climb of effort. It moves according to the horizontal alignment of being. You cannot step into a new reality while carrying the same old self. You cannot live as someone in lack and expect to receive abundance. You cannot bring a limited identity into an expanded experience. Beneath every result you have is an invisible answer to the question, who am I? If that answer does not change, nothing you do will last. Behavior can temporarily rise above identity, but it cannot be sustained unless identity changes. It is like pumping water from a dry well. You will have to exert yourself endlessly and never feel full. But when you begin from within, from redefining the person you are living as, everything else adjusts naturally. This is not a miracle, it is spiritual logic. Identity shapes perception. Perception shapes choice. Choice shapes behavior. Behavior creates results. If you want different results, you must become a different version of yourself, not by pretending, but by returning to your truest nature. When you say, I am an organized person, your mind begins to look for ways to prove it through small, consistent actions. When you say, I am someone who connects easily, your energy opens toward others. When you say, I am someone who is healing, your body responds in support of that process. No tricks, no perfection, only alignment between who you are and how you choose to live. Many say, I want success, but live as someone afraid of failure. They say, I want love, but live as someone unworthy of being loved. They say, I want recognition, but shrink away because they cannot accept their true value. Life does not listen to your words, it feels what you are. And what you are is confirmed in every unseen choice: how you walk, how you answer, how you face delay, feedback, and fear. It is not about becoming someone else, it is about releasing someone who no longer fits. Real change does not come from striving, it comes from letting go. When you stop trying to become and start showing up as the truth within, you become clear, and clarity always attracts. It calls in the people, circumstances, and opportunities aligned with you, not by chance, but because the frequency has shifted, and frequency is not something you can fake. It comes from the core of identity. If you are waiting for change to happen so you can finally believe you are different, you are going the wrong way. Belief does not come after proof. Belief creates proof. And the first proof is in how you begin speaking about yourself. No one can speak it for you. No one can live it for you. I am cannot be borrowed. It must be spoken by you every day, not in a shout, but in the steady quiet of certainty. I am abundant. I am expanding. I am love in human form. Each time you say this, you are rewriting the story not from the middle, but from the beginning, and when the beginning changes, every page after it changes on its own. This is where change stops being something you chase and becomes something you live, not through effort, but through recognition, not through reasoning, but through presence. You no longer need to strain to prove anything, because you exist as the proof. Life is an honest mirror. It does not reflect what you wish for. It reflects what you have confirmed as true. When you change the way you are, you do not have to command reality. You simply step into it. Step into a space where everything is already ready to receive you. Because finally, you are ready to receive yourself. Neuroscience and I am reprogramming the brain. The brain does not distinguish between an actual event and something imagined and repeated many times. It does not ask whether what you just thought is true or false, logical or illogical, positive or negative. It simply records, stores, and begins constructing neural pathways based on repetition. This is why every time you say I am, you are sending a biological signal, not only a mental one, but a physical one. When you say I am not good enough, your nervous system receives the command and immediately adjusts. When you say I am expanding, that same nervous system restructures itself to support you stepping into a new pattern. This is not a vague belief, it is the actual architecture of the brain. Within you is a system called neuroplasticity, the brain's capacity to change. It is never fixed, never rigid, are always ready to create a new pathway. If you send a new signal, and that signal is sent most powerfully through the language of identity, I am is the primary command. Each time you speak it, you activate your central nervous system, emotional mechanisms, behavioral patterns, and memory circuits. A seemingly simple sentence, I am not good enough, can program your entire lived experience if repeated often enough. No one outside you needs to confirm it, because once you affirm it, the brain acts as if it is true. It does not compare. It does not resist. It simply executes. Once you understand this, you stop joking about yourself, because no joke attached to I am is harmless. The mind does not differentiate between sarcasm and truth. It only receives the frequency. And the frequency you emit when saying I am a failure is no different from making a sworn oath to your entire biological system. But by the same mechanism, you can create the opposite pathway when you begin to say, I am recovery, I am changing, I am someone who loves. You are sending a new impulse. At first, it may feel empty, even absurd, but the brain does not require immediate emotion. It only requires consistency. With each repetition, a new neural strand forms. Each time you feel it as more real, that strand strengthens. Gradually, the brain decides this is the new signal to prioritize. Every time you repeat the old statement, the old pathway is activated, but if you stop feeding it, it weakens. Like a road, no one travels anymore. It fades. In its place, the new road begins to open. Change does not have to come as a shock. It can begin with conscious repetition. And this is how you can reprogram your entire nervous system without altering the outside world. Every healing begins with a new statement, not because it sounds nice, but because it carries a different frequency, a different com, and a different vibration than what you have programmed before. If you say, I am peace, the brain registers it and adjusts how your nervous system responds to stress. If you say, I am strong, the body regulates hormones to support that state. If you say, I am ready to receive, You will find yourself acting with fewer barriers, less defensiveness, and a heart that begins to open. None of this comes from the world out there. It comes from the source, the awareness you have programmed within. Identity is not merely a mental idea. It is a biological pattern. And when you change that pattern, every physiological response changes with it. Every cell is instructed by the command you choose to affirm. This is why when you change your I am, you are not just changing how you think you are, changing how you show up, how you breathe, how you face challenges. From there, you no longer need to control life, you simply need to be clear about the signal you are broadcasting. Clarity in identity creates order in behavior. Order in behavior creates coherence. In reality, it is a chain of alignment that begins with what seems smallest. The sentence you repeat in your mind every day, I am, is the brain's GPS. And the brain will direct your entire system to deliver you to the place that matches that instruction. You do not need to fight the old habit, you only need to feed the new pathway. Not with haste, but with intentional repetition. And then one day, you will realize you no longer have to try to become something because you already are that. In your awareness, in your words, in your vibration. And the world simply does its job to reflect what you have chosen to be. The power of neuroplasticity. The brain can be reprogrammed. There is no function of the brain more important than its ability to change, contrary to the old belief that the brain becomes fixed after a certain age. Modern science confirms that you can completely reshape neural connections, alter responses, and even reconfigure emotional structures simply by consciously repeating a new form of signal. This is the essence of neuroplasticity. You are not trapped in the past. You are not locked into a pattern of thought, behavior, or emotion. You do not have to live with an outdated identity someone once placed upon you every day. You can rewrite not through force, but through signal. And the most powerful signal in all cognitive language is I am. Every time you say I am, you are sending a command to the brain, not for logic to store, but for neural pathways to adjust. When you repeat, I am useless, you are not only feeling less valuable, you are engraving that code into your biology, causing your reactions, hormones, emotions, and behaviors to automatically orbit that lower baseline. Conversely, when you say, I am expanding, I am capable, even before you feel it, the brain still registers it. And if you continue, you are gradually engraving a new design into your entire nervous system. What matters is not whether you believe it completely right now. What matters is that you send the new signal and repeat it with awareness. The brain does not require you to prove it. It requires you to be consistent. The more often a signal is repeated, the more tightly the neural network weaves around it, and at a certain threshold, what once felt distant becomes familiar. What once felt forced becomes your new nature. This is how deep, lasting transformation happens, not from sudden inspiration, but from planting and replanting a different signal until it becomes the default pathway. Neuroplasticity does not ask your age. It does not care how many times you have failed. It does not need you to prove worthiness. It only demands that you repeat the new signal clearly, feel it with presence, and give it enough time to replace the old structure. Every day you say, I am love. I am light. I am living with purpose. You are laying another brick on the new road. You do not have to tear up the old road. You only need to stop walking it. An unused road fades. The new road brightens with each conscious step. And one day, you no longer have to force yourself to believe the new identity. You have become it. Naturally, effortlessly, because your brain has agreed, because your nervous system has reprogrammed, because you have lived long enough in the new signal for it to become biological truth. It is like learning a new skill at first. Awkward, clumsy, uncertain, but you persist, you continue, and one day you realize you no longer have to think about it. Your hands move on their own. Your body responds instinctively. It is no longer effort, it is being. Identity works the same way. When you consistently say, I am, with a higher vibration, your brain has no choice but to comply. That is biological law. That is the power of consciousness. You do not need to change the whole world. You need only change the signal sent from the control center within you. If you want real, lasting change, you do not need to do more. You need to do it right. Instead of trying to control behavior, observe identity. Instead of wrestling with results, adjust the original signal. Shift from I am not enough to I am growing. From I always fail to I am learning resilience. From I am weak to I am discovering my inner strength. These words are not pretend. They are the gateway into a new neural structure. You do not need to believe instantly, only to continue. And one day, you will surprise yourself by realizing you have changed. Not because circumstances transformed, but because you changed the way you live from within. You reclaimed the design rights you had long forgotten were yours. When you live from that place, and you no longer seek miracles, you are the miracle. Not because you are more special than anyone else, but because you have remembered how the brain, identity, and creation truly operate, and you have used them consciously, consistently, with a faith that does not require proof, only commitment, a commitment repeated every day, through the simplest yet most sacred 3 words, I am, and the rest the brain will organize, life will respond, reality will reshape, because you have chosen again at the center, and from there, everything can begin anew. Asterisk, asterisk, 4 practical tools to change your identity. Reprogramming identity is not an abstract idea, it is a concrete process. It does not happen through fleeting inspiration, but through intentional repetition, infused with emotion and structure. When you understand that I am is a vibrational command, a biological signal, and a creative declaration, you also understand that its use should not be left to unconscious habit. To change identity, you must create the space for the new identity to grow. Below are 4 simple tools that, when practiced consistently, can restructure both your brain and your awareness. Tool 1, the mirror method. Each day, spend a few minutes standing in front of a mirror, looking straight into your own eyes, and speaking the I am declarations you want to embody. Do not say them in your head. Say them out loud. Do not recite them mechanically. Speak them with your full presence. Your eyes are the gateway between the conscious and subconscious mind. When you look into your own eyes and affirm something, you cannot hide from yourself. You must face yourself. This is not a mystical ritual, but a method backed by research. Eye contact activates emotional regions of the brain, increasing your ability to absorb new information. Start simply. I am abundant. I am healing. I am living in alignment with my true values. You may not fully believe it at first. That is irrelevant. What matters is that you are planting a new signal. Each time you see your reflection and speak the new identity, you are marking a different version of yourself. This is the power of voice within, not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to. Tool 2, the negative affirmation reversal. Whenever you hear yourself say an old, negative, or limiting I am, pause. Do not rush to deny it, acknowledge it, then rewrite it. For example, if you say, I'm a failure, stop and say, that is an old story, and I'm choosing again. I am someone learning to succeed with clarity. This reversal activates the part of your brain responsible for conscious choice while weakening the old neural network. You do not need to force instant belief. Treat it like steering a large ship. Every time you rewrite the story, you redirect an entire stream of energy. Tool 3, identity journaling. Every morning, write 3 to 5 I am statements that reflect the version of yourself you are building. Not things you wish for, but things you are choosing to live now. Avoid vague idealism. Write them with evidence. For example, I am consistent. I completed my tasks yesterday. I am a good listener. I was fully present in last night's conversation. Writing with proof reinforces the new signal in the brain, increases its sense of reality, and reduces internal resistance. Journaling each morning also ensures you start the day from a proactive state rather than a reactive one. Identity is not a distant dream. It is the deliberate accumulation of each sentence. You write. Tool 4, visualization with identity anchoring. Close your eyes and picture yourself in the near future, living as the person you want to become. Not a vague daydream. See it in detail. What are you doing? How do you feel? How do you move? How do you speak? How do you face life? Then, in that state, whisper, I am, and name the version you just saw. I am that person. I am that version right now. Do not wait for it to happen to believe. You have changed. Believe first, and everything else will follow. When you visualize and say, I am, in a heightened emotional state, neurotransmitters like dopamine and acetylcholine are released, helping to encode the experience more powerfully. This is not fantasy. It is a biological reprogramming tool. These 4 tools are simple, requiring no special equipment or complex knowledge. They only demand a commitment to yourself. When you practice daily, you are not merely repeating words. You are rebuilding your inner architecture. You are choosing not just new thoughts, but a whole new way of being. And when identity shifts, the world must follow, because you no longer act from fear, but from clarity. No longer decide from lack, but from abundance. You are no longer someone hoping life will change. You are someone living as if it already has. Reprogramming identity is not an overnight task. It is a journey home, where you remember what you have always been. On that journey, these 4 tools are anchors, holding you steady when old habits try to pull you back. Use them not as mechanical techniques, but as rituals of awareness. Each day, you can return to that inner space where the new voice grows louder. This is the power of voice within, not just a voice you hear, but a space you return to. Asterisk. A space with no past binding you, no future weighing on you, only a present in which you choose again who you are living as. Embodiment, becoming the new you today. Embodiment is not imagination. It is the act of living as though you already are the person you choose to become. Not through intellect, but through vibration. Not merely through words, but through alignment in every action, glance, step, choice, and response. Embodiment is the stage where I am is no longer just a declaration. It has become a lived experience. Many say, I want to be at peace. I want to live in love. I want abundance. Yet they continue to act as someone tense, fearful, and lacking, not because they are being false, but because they have not understood a vital truth. The universe does not listen to what you want. It responds to what you are. Frequency does not respond to desire. It responds to presence. If you live as someone trying to be accepted, then even if you say, I am worthy, the energy you emit will still come from doubt. Embodiment is the art of living before the result arrives, living as if what you desire has already happened. Not to deceive, but to align, not to force the universe, but to harmonize with the flow of creation. In embodiment, you do not wait for proof to believe. Your belief is the first proof, and from that belief, you adjust everything to match. You begin to speak as someone who already has, walk as someone who already knows, look as someone whose heart is open, choose as someone standing in the light, not because you are pretending, but because you are remembering. This is not about becoming someone else. It is about removing what hides your true self. You do not need to add anything to embody. You simply let go of what no longer reflects who you truly are. The alignment between identity and behavior is the bridge to your new reality. If you say, I am living fully, but continue to delay important choices, you are sending a broken signal that when you say, I am living fully, and begin to prioritize what inspires you, your signal becomes coherent. And when your signal is coherent, reality cannot help but respond. Embodiment is living in the energy of what is forming, even when nothing outside confirms it. It is choosing a steady posture before anyone calls you strong, choosing peaceful silence when chaos swirls around you, acting from clarity when the outcome is still unclear. You do not need to fake positivity. You simply step into center. From that place, every action flows from harmony. You do not need to talk much about who you are becoming. The world will feel it in your presence. Others will see it in your eyes. Life will reflect it through what you begin to attract. This is no longer the game of effort. It is the state of alignment. Embodiment is the fastest way to bring a new identity into reality, because consistent action creates evidence, and evidence strengthens belief. The cycle of transformation begins here. But if you wait for results before believing you are already there, you delay the very formation of that reality, because reality does not precede identity, it follows it. So ask yourself, if I were already that person, what would I do today? How would I speak? What would I choose? What would I refuse? How would I listen to myself? Let those small actions become the rituals of embodiment. You do not need others to validate you. You do not need to prove it. You only need to live as though what you believe is already here. When you do, every cell in your body will restructure to match the new energy. Your mind will stop doubting because you will no longer demand external confirmation. You have already confirmed it through the way you live. Living like this each day is your way of telling the universe, I have decided. I am not waiting. I am not searching. I am not hiding. I have stepped in. And from here, everything changes not through miracles from outside, but through the growing power within. Embodiment is where I am becomes I live, where identity becomes lifestyle, where belief is no longer a promise, but a foundation. And from that foundation, you build a reality that does not repeat the past, but mirrors your present choice. You have always had this power, and right now, you can reclaim it. No waiting. Just begin living as though you already are. Because the truth is, you always have been. Now is the time to embody it. The outer expression of embodiment, have you noticed how each time you walk into a space, people can feel your energy before you say a word? It is not because you are trying to impress it, it's because your inner state is always broadcasting a clear frequency that is embodiment in motion, not the idea of who you are, but the living proof through the way you show up. Embodiment does not stop at affirmation. It begins to be seen in the smallest details, the way you breathe, whether you hold your spine upright or bow your head, how you respond when misunderstood, how you meet another's eyes without looking away. These expressions cannot be faked nor borrowed. They can only emerge from an inner world that has truly shifted. If you say, I am peace, but your body is tense, your voice hurried, your actions rushed, others will sense the misalignment, not because your words are wrong, but because you are not fully living them yet. But when you say, I am abundance, and your eyes no longer carry need, Your posture is no longer closed, and your words no longer rush to prove. The world begins to listen differently. No one needs you to explain. They simply feel it. And they will feel it when you truly embody your new identity. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, today, are you living more like the old version you've outgrown, or the new version you are calling in? The answer is not in what you say. It is in each choice you make. How you begin your morning, how you eat, how you speak to yourself. When things don't go as planned, how you rise after a mistake. Embodiment is bringing the soul into the body. It is no longer theory, no longer something you must remember. It is what naturally rises each day. When you embody confidence, you do not need to raise your voice. You simply keep your spine tall and your gaze open. When you embody love, you do not need to please anyone. You simply enter the room with an undefended heart. When you embody abundance, you do not check things 3 times. You do not control others. You simply inhale deeply and exhale with gratitude. Your body is where identity lives most vividly. Every movement is a silent declaration. Do not underestimate small expressions. Each glance you offer, each nod, each smile, each moment of silence carries the message of who you are. That is embodiment. No stage required, no proclamation necessary, only the consistency of your inner and outer worlds matching. When you live from that place, the world begins to respond not to your words, but to your presence. You become living proof, and that speaks louder than any presentation. So I ask you not for me to hear, but for you to answer within yourself what part of you is still living as though you are not ready to be the new you. What actions, habits, or reactions do you know are pulling you back to the old identity? And if there are any, are you willing to place your hand over your heart and say, I see this, and today I choose to walk differently? You do not need to change everything at once. Just begin with one movement, one adjustment, one fuller breath, one accepting gaze toward yourself. Embodiment does not happen in ideals, it happens in present choices. And if you are still here, reading these words, I thank you. Your presence is proof that you are not here by accident. Your soul is actively finding its way home, not to somewhere far away, but back to your true self, where you do not have to strive to become anything. You simply allow yourself to be. Thank you for walking this journey with me. Thank you for not only hearing, but feeling, and most importantly, thank you for being willing to step into the person you were always born to be. The rest does not come from doing more. It comes from how you show up for yourself. From this moment forward, let your body be the evidence. Let your behavior be the bridge. Let each moment be the proof that you have chosen and that you are living as though you already are. Because deep down, you know you have never lacked anything. You are simply remembering the trap of negative declarations and limiting language. Negative declarations are not harmless complaints. They are vibrational commands sent out without awareness, yet they carry the power to restructure your entire experience of life. When you say, I am a failure, I am invisible, I am someone who cannot change, you are not merely describing a passing feeling, you are placing an anchor point in your consciousness, a point from which every choice, reaction, and behavior will begin to form in order to reaffirm what you have just declared. Language has memory. Every word you choose carries a frequency, and each time you repeat it, you carve that frequency deeper into your nervous system, causing your responses to the world to arise not from freedom, but from the invisible old commands that have been imprinted within you. Negative declarations rarely come from malice, they come from habit, from unhealed pain, from labeled memories, from words someone else planted in you that you unknowingly agreed to. You begin calling yourself names you never consciously chose. Then repeat them unconsciously as part of your identity. The danger lies not so much in the content of those words, but in their repetition without awareness. Each time you say, "I am not good enough," even as a joke or to avoid responsibility, you are stamping your signature onto an old contract, a limiting blueprint you keep renewing every day. And your inner biology will respond precisely to that. Limiting language is how you shrink yourself to fit into temporary comfort. It stops you from trying new things, makes you avoid true opportunities, keeps you living in a safe but cramped zone, because inside you have come to believe you cannot be different. Words can be seeds or they can be chains, depending on how you use them. When used carelessly, they not only weaken your energy, but also distort your entire process of embodiment. You cannot say, "I am light," and then continually complain that you are never lucky. You cannot call yourself expanding and then fill your conversations with doubt, judgment, and self-deprecation. Identity is not measured by intention, it is measured by the alignment between your words and your way of living. The trap of negative declarations is that they often disguise themselves as humility. You say, "I am just an ordinary person. I do not have the ability others have. I do not dare to dream big." You believe you are being realistic, but in truth, you are boxing in your own potential, not because you lack anything, but because you are accustomed to contraction, and the brain, when fed that signal for too long, will lock it in as the default setting. From there, every positive signal sent in will be rejected, every compliment douted, every opportunity delayed, because the current identity does not allow it to enter. Understand this: you cannot use limiting words to build an expanded reality. You cannot plant seeds of lack and expect the fruit of abundance. This is not because the universe is harsh, it is because the feedback system of life is precise. It does not adjust to your wishes, it adjusts to what you have confirmed as true. The key word is confirm. Every statement you repeat, whether in a midday sigh or in casual talk with friends, is a form of confirmation. If you do not rewrite it, it will continue to deepen its hold. So awareness begins in the smallest of places. Observe the words you use when speaking about yourself. Notice the phrases you repeat like reflex. Notice the expressions that seem harmless yet carry the frequency of delay. Notice which language comes from love and which comes from fear. You do not need to fight negative language with force. Simply stop feeding it with agreement. Pause, redirect, rewrite. I am not a failure. I am learning to succeed again. I am not invisible. I am opening to being fully seen. Each rewrite is a widening of your own borders, not by running from the old, but by introducing a new frequency. When the new frequency becomes strong enough, the old will dissolve on its own, having no ground to stand on. The language you choose is the most powerful instrument you possess for this. Language is not an accessory to the awakening journey, it is the gateway, the keyboard that types your reality, the wand that points toward the life you wish to live. To use it carefully is to reclaim your creative power, and this does not begin when you change your entire life. It begins the moment you stop speaking the words that make you smaller. Every sentence is a declaration. Every declaration is a seed, and every seed is waiting for you to decide what it will grow into. When you choose your words anew, you are choosing yourself anew, not through vows or oaths, but through the gentle precision of what you call true. From there, reality will begin to respond, not through pressure, but through clarity. New language as the wand of energy. Language is not just for communication. It is energy taking shape. Every word you speak carries a vibration, and every vibration seeks to embody itself in the form of your lived experience. No one can escape the influence of their own words. They are like invisible arrows piercing through layers of consciousness, creating currents of energy that shape how you think, feel, act, and attract. When you change your words, you are not merely adjusting grammar, you are tuning the very frequency to which your entire life will align. Imagine language as a magic wand. Every time you speak, you are waving that wand to command the energy within and around you to reconfigure. If you use it to repeat limitation, that wand will construct a closed world. But if you use it to declare the truth of your soul, that world will open in an entirely new direction. Language is a vehicle of transformation, a tool that touches your essence and awakens the dormant power within. When you begin choosing new words, not for how they sound, but because they reflect the deeper truth of who you are becoming, you will notice something remarkable. Your body shifts, your heartbeat steadies, your breath deepens, your emotions clear. People around you start to sense something different, not because you are trying to impress, but because your new language creates a new field. Words like, I am light, I am abundance, I am clarity, I am the embodiment of unconditional love, are not just affirmations, they are healing frequencies. Subtle waves flowing into each cell, awakening the primal memory of your true nature. To let new language work like a magic wand, you cannot use it as a dry ritual. It must come from presence. It must be spoken with full attention and feeling, not just saying, I am abundant, but feeling abundance in every cell as you speak. It, not just saying, I am love, but letting your heart open as though it were merging into a river that no longer resists. This is the art of using words as living vibrations, not empty slogans. And when you practice this long enough, you no longer speak to change your life. You speak from a life already changed. New language also allows you to reframe old experiences. Instead of saying, I was abandoned, you can say, I learned to stand on my own and discover my true worth. Instead of saying, I am a failure, you can say, I am someone who keeps trying until the lesson is clear. The shift in language is a shift in perception. And new perception creates new reality because everything begins with what you affirm as true within yourself. Remember, the language you use to describe yourself is the blueprint your subconscious follows. The subconscious does not know right or wrong. It only knows to repeat what you have confirmed. So if you wish to live consciously, you must speak consciously. Every I am should be treated as a sacred vow, a signal sent to the central command of life within you. When that signal is clear, consistent, and strong, your entire inner system will begin to reset, not according to the ego, but according to the soul. This is the power of the voice within, not just a sound you hear, but a space you return to, a space untouched by time, where every vibration is recorded, where every word becomes the foundation of reality. When you return there, you do not need to force yourself to think positively or strain to believe in good things. From the depths, you live from a pure frequency, where word and truth are no longer separate. From here, you can begin to choose language as you choose direction. Each morning, instead of asking, what will happen today? Asterisk. Ask, who will I choose to be today? Asterisk. When facing a decision, instead of overanalyzing right or wrong, say, I am clarity, and let that guide you. When feeling weak, instead of retreating, whisper, I am gentle strength, and let that strength spread through your breath. Language is an invitation, a doorway, a form of magic. Use it as an artist uses a brush, as a healer uses their hands, as a teacher uses their presence. Every word you choose can be a thread that reweaves your essence from the ground up. And when you have mastered your words, and you no longer need to control the outer world, you simply speak the right truth from within. And everything else aligns. So do not rush, do not speak just to fill the air. Speak as though every cell is listening and the world is too. The sacred stillness after the declaration. A declaration is only the beginning. The true power is not in the sound of the words, but in the stillness that follows. When you speak, I am, the universe does not merely hear the vibration, it pauses before the space that remains after those words. It is in that silence where the fertile soil lies, where every vibrational seed begins to germinate. After each declaration, if you resist the urge to fill the space with action or doubt, you will feel a subtle movement within. That is life rearranging itself. That is the profound response to the energetic field you've just set in motion. Modern life often fears silence. We try to fill it with words, thoughts, information, or activity. Yet in truth, all deep transformation happens in stillness. A seed does not sprout while you watch it, grows in the darkness of the soil, unseen, in moments when everything appears motionless. That is how I am works. After you declare, as you pause, you do nothing. You do not demand instant results. You do not try to check if it is working. You simply remain with the vibration, letting presence unfold like a flower that is not forced to bloom but opens naturally from within. The stillness after the declaration is a sign that you believe, for when you truly believe something, you do not need to repeat it endlessly to reassure yourself. You say it once, and then you fall silent, allowing it to take root. In stillness, the mind stops controlling, the body stops resisting, energy begins to rebalance. In that moment, you are living as though what you have declared is already true, without proof, without immediate feedback, just presence. Stillness does not mean nothing is happening. On the contrary, it is where everything truly begins. Outwardly, nothing may appear to change. Inwardly, layers of belief are being dismantled, old programs are being rewritten, frozen emotions are beginning to thaw, and from that silence, you start to hear something more refined, not the voice of fear, not the echo of memory, but the voice within, not merely a sound you hear, but the space to which you return. This is the power of the voice within, a sanctuary where word and truth merge into one. When you return to that space, you no longer question what you have said. You no longer analyze whether it will work. You no longer converse with the ego. You are seated inside truth. And truth does not need defending. It only needs to be lived. The stillness after the declaration is like planting a seed in the ground and walking away, trusting that spring will come. You do not dig it up each day to check. You simply water it with presence, gratitude, and choices that align with the new identity. In stillness, you begin to feel the transformation without having to see it. You begin to know that what you have chosen has been received. You do not need to shout for the universe to hear. You only need to be in true inner alignment. When your spoken word and the vibration that follows are in harmony, you have ignited the beginning of a new reality. You keep it growing by staying anchored in trust. Stillness is also where you can hear the echoes within more clearly. Resistance will surface, old beliefs will rise, and you will have the chance to look at them without reacting or fighting, just seeing and acknowledging them, which dissolves their power in stillness. You do not battle, yet you win because you are no longer swept away by old currents. You stand in the stream with unconditional peace. After every powerful declaration, Give yourself a few minutes of nothing, no movement, no thoughts to control, no interference. Simply breathe and allow the energy you have called forth to permeate your body. Let that I am become a heartbeat, a wave, a light within you. Every cell will listen. Every memory will vibrate. And the integration will begin on levels deeper than any words can reach. A declaration is activation. Stillness is manifestation. They are inseparable. If you only speak but never listen, your words will not have the strength to transform. But if you remain present after each chosen word, you will step into a vibrational realm where miracles are no longer distant. They are the natural state. And you are no longer the seeker, but the one who remembers. So the next time you say, I am, let the space after those words expand. Rest in its fullness like a still lake, like the sky before dawn. No pushing, no expecting, just presence. And then you will realize that in that very stillness, everything you ever sought has been here all along, quietly waiting for you to remember. I am that I am, the sacred loop of creation. I am that I am is not merely a phrase. It is the heartbeat of life, the divine blueprint carried within every created being. When you speak I am, you awaken a part of yourself that was once aligned with truth. And when you follow with that I am, you are not simply affirming what has been said, you are completing it, bringing it to a state of wholeness where the one who speaks and that which is spoken become one. This is the sacred loop of creation, without beginning, without end, where identity and reality intertwine into a ceaseless spiral of renewal. Each time you say, I am that I am, and you return to your own center, no longer chasing after outward images, no longer seeking definitions from the world. Instead, you affirm for yourself, I am that which is. I do not need to strive to become. I need only to align with what has always existed within me. And it is this returning that marks the true beginning of transformation. Not because you have learned something new, but because you have remembered what was forgotten. Not because something was added to you, but because you have laid down what no longer belongs. The loop of I am that I am is not an action, it is a state of being. When you live within it, you no longer react to the world. You begin to consciously direct energy, not from control, but from cooperation. You cooperate with the higher will. You merge with a greater flow without losing yourself. You begin to see that everything happening is a faithful reflection of the frequency you carry. And because you have chosen I am with awareness, every reflection becomes an opening rather than a challenge. Within this loop, each I am is a seed sent forth. Each that I am is water given in trust. The seed does not sprout because you force it, but because you release it, because you keep that vibration alive within you long enough for it to become reality. And when you do not interrupt it with doubt or fear, it grows into a tree. Each tree is a manifestation. Each manifestation is a new layer of yourself. And each new layer begins from this simple yet sacred loop. I am that I am is also the formula for every healing journey. When you are lost, you only need to return to this point. No analysis of reasons, no explaining of pain, just breathe and remember, I am, and what I am is being perfected in each moment. That presence alone can dissolve a memory that has weighed on your mind for years, not through effort, but through acknowledgement. For no pain can survive when you are truly in the state of I am. This sacred statement is also your way out of negative loops. If you have been caught in declarations like, I am a failure, or I am unworthy, you can break that chain with truth. Speak it clearly and firmly. I am that I am. Then listen to the stillness that opens within you. You will sense a subtle but steady shift. And from that space, you can rewrite, you can choose again, not through striving, but through the awareness that you always have the power to choose. The loop of I am that I am does not demand perfection. It only asks for presence, presence in your words, in your actions, in your thoughts. When you live from there, you are no longer manipulated by external conditions. You no longer react by habit. You begin to live as one who has remembered, and that is the first step toward true creation. For every outward form begins from a single point within. When that point is clear, the world is no longer a battlefield. It is a canvas for expression. You do not need to shout, I am that I am, for it to be effective. You only need to speak it from the depths. A whisper from the heart can be more powerful than the echo of a crowd. The power of this statement does not lie in its volume, but in the depth of presence behind it, when you truly know who you are. Every vibration you send carries the imprint of the Holy Spirit, and from that place, everything you touch begins to transform. I am that I am is not philosophy. It is a living tool, a map for returning, a code for unlocking divine potential. And each time you remember, you are not living only for yourself. You are bringing light back into the world. For one person, fully living in their divine identity becomes a point of light that ripples through the collective field. No teaching required, no proof demanded, only presence. And that light will spread. So as you close this journey, do not carry away only beautiful words. Carry the vibration. Let I am that I am become the breath you live, the heartbeat you feel, the frequency you give to every step. And each day, return to that point, not to start over, but to continue expanding. Each time you say, I am that I am, you rebuild the bridge between ego and soul. And on that bridge, you will no longer need to seek healing, for you will be the embodiment of it, a whole, awake, and free. You have walked this journey, not to learn something new, but to strip away the layers that have covered what you have always known. Truth has never left you. You simply turned your face away. Now is the time to return, not to an idea, but to a living state of presence. From this moment on, you no longer need to strive to become the light. Live as though you have always been that light. Let every breath be an affirmation. Let every step be a declaration. And let every moment of stillness be a testament to the sacred union awakening within you. I am that I am, and that is enough.